One day, they're there. The next day, they're just gone. No dramatic fight, no final conversation, no explanation that satisfies anyone trying to make sense of it. They just quietly disappeared from the group chat, stopped showing up, stopped reaching out. And if you ask them why, they'd probably give you something vague and minimal that still somehow says everything. I just needed space. I'm focusing on myself. It got to be too much. And the people left behind shake their heads and say things like, they're selfish, they're cold, they have commitment issues. Maybe they never really cared. But that's almost never the truth. And today, we're going to talk about what is. Because the people who cut everyone off are rarely the people who care the least. More often, they're the people who cared so much for so long that one day their system quietly reached its limit, and the only way they knew how to survive it was to go completely silent. Let's start at the beginning. Psychologists who study attachment and interpersonal behavior consistently find that social withdrawal at this scale, the kind where someone removes themselves from multiple relationships at once, is almost always a protective response, not a preference. Nobody wakes up one morning and thinks, you know what sounds great? Complete isolation. What actually happens is far more gradual and far more painful than that. It usually starts with a feeling that's hard to name, a slow-building sense that no matter how much you give, you're still somehow running on empty, that the relationships around you cost more than they return, that you've been performing closeness rather than feeling it, that your boundaries keep getting treated as suggestions, and somewhere in the exhaustion of all of that, something snaps. Not dramatically, quietly, like a thread that's been pulled one too many times and finally just gives way without any fanfare at all. Psychologists call this emotional shutdown, a nervous system response to sustained relational stress. When a person has experienced repeated boundary violations, emotional exhaustion, or a chronic sense of being unseen or misunderstood, the brain begins to associate connection itself with threat. And when connection becomes threatening, distance becomes safety. The withdrawal isn't cruelty. It's the only form of self-preservation the nervous system has left to offer. There's also something important happening at the attachment level. Many people who cut others off carry what researchers call an avoidant or fearful avoidant attachment style, often shaped in childhood by environments where emotional needs were either dismissed, punished, or met with inconsistency. For these individuals, closeness was never entirely safe to begin with. So when adult relationships begin to feel overwhelming, that old neural wiring activates. Pull back, go quiet, disappear before someone else can hurt you first. And here's the part that nobody talks about enough. Cutting people off often feels terrible for the person doing it. It isn't relief the way people assume from the outside, it's grief. They mourn the relationships even as they end them. They lie awake wondering if they made the right call. They feel the specific loneliness of someone who chose their own silence, which is somehow even heavier than the kind that's chosen for you. But they do it anyway, because for them, at that point in time, the alternative felt worse. What's worth understanding is that this behavior exists on a spectrum. On one end, there are people making genuinely healthy choices, recognizing toxic dynamics, removing themselves from environments that were costing them their peace, and doing the difficult but necessary work of rebuilding their lives with more intention. On the other end, there are people whose withdrawal is less about boundaries and more about unprocessed pain, using distance as a permanent shield rather than a temporary one, never quite letting anyone close enough to risk being hurt again. Both deserve compassion, neither is simple. If you've ever been the one doing the cutting off, the silent disappearing act that you could never quite explain to anyone else's satisfaction, I want to offer you this. The instinct to protect yourself is not something to be ashamed of, but there is a version of protection that walls you in as much as it walls others out. The work, eventually, is learning the difference between a boundary that keeps you safe and a wall that keeps you alone. And if you're someone on the other side, someone who got quietly removed from someone's life without a real explanation, it probably wasn't about your worth. Most of the time, it was about their survival. That doesn't make it hurt any less, but it might make it mean something different. Found this helpful? Hit like and subscribe for more plain psychology. See you in the next one.